corruption prevention committees and provided the guidelines which also help in terms of training and capacity development. So far, we have done this in 6 pilot counties of Kisumu, Siaya, Kakamega, Vihiga, Bungoma, and Elgeyo Marakwet. And going forward, we are going to upscale this and roll it out to the other counties so that each and every county has an operational corruption prevention committee. And what this does is that they are able now to do their own corruption risk assessment. We provide the capacity building so that they are able to do their own corruption risk assessments, to be able to identify their own risks. And we work with them to follow up on the implementation of the issues that come out of those corruption risk assessments. So as I said, the Commission works on a 5-year strategic plan, and we have already now finalized the next strategic plan for 2023-2028, where we are actually taking stock of the lessons learned in the previous strategic plans in order to do things differently, to upscale, for example, in terms of investigations, using more intelligence, using technology in the investigations, and also surveillance mechanism that will actually help us to upscale the fight against corruption going forward. And again, as I said, we're not just focusing on law enforcement, but also working on more of the systems reviews and corruption risk assessments, and also making sure that the corruption prevention committees that have been established in the counties are working so that at least we're able to address this menace of corruption going forward. So I'll stop there and happy to answer any more questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Ogalo. That's the really insightful role of EACC. Sometimes we don't get to, if you don't go out to look for this information, we won't really know that there's a lot of work that you are doing. And just looking at, especially, I like that focus, the areas that you focus on, high impact cases in sectors, a lot of them devolved sectors that have a direct hit on the people, high value amounts and high profile personalities, but also interesting around your work on the preventive side, which I do hope does have linkages to CAJ's also mechanisms at the county level. I want to shift to our final set of panelists, and these are the development partners and civil society. And I will start with Sheila Masinde from TI Kenya. Sheila, listening to your fellow panelists coming from different institutions, constitutional institutions, parliament, and others, you as TI do a lot of research, looking at actually a lot of what the institutions represented on the panel are doing, and whether they are responsive to Kenyans, and whether governance is improving. I don't know. Are you seeing any positive results coming out from your research on the work that our governance institutions are doing? And if yes, please let us know. But also, if there are challenges and barriers that eventually affect development outcomes based on your recommendations not being implemented, what are these? And in 5 minutes, tell us that alongside what your organization does. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Con, and good morning to everyone. I work for Transparency International Kenya. It's a national civil society organization working in Kenya for now almost 25 years, but associated with the Global Transparency International movement, which is working towards a corruption-free society. And yes, I believe that we will see that in the fullness of time if we continue working on a number of things, some of which have been mentioned here. And we work through research, as Con has addressed a question to me, public interest litigation, advocacy, provide legal aid to victims of corruption, as well as support institutions who want to deal with issues around anti-corruption, so in terms of institutional strengthening. And directly to your question, Con, in regard to research, and we started particularly in regard to research that we have done on county governance. We have conducted a research called the County Governance Status Study, which we first did in 2016 and followed up in 2020. And of course, in 2016, the county governance structures, particularly in regard to accountability, were very nascent. And what we found, because that particular piece of research assesses issues around integrity, transparency, accountability, and service delivery, to what extent have counties been able to build mechanisms towards promoting this, and what functions have they developed in regard to this. In 2016, we didn't find much work or structures that had been built, but that was just 3 years after the devolution. But in 2020, we found a bit of improvement. Commissioner Ogallo has talked about, the placement of integrity assurance officers. And actually, that's one of the recommendations that we had made. We had made recommendations for the formation of corruption prevention committees. He has just said that we now have 6, I think you're piloting it in 6 counties. I think one of the other issues we raised was lack of effective public participation and access to information. Chair Florence Kajiju has talked about what they're doing in regard to access to information, but I think we really need those regulations like today so that we are able to get the process of accessing information, not just at national level, but also at county level, because many Kenyans still go to county offices, demand information, particularly in regard to fiscal information, but are not able to get this information, despite the fact that that right is enshrined in Article 35 of the Constitution. On public participation, we have increasingly seen counties coming up with frameworks in regard to that, but I think there's still a challenge in terms of the quality of public participation. I still get the sense that it's all about ticking a box. There was public participation. There's a law being developed. You call for public participation and feedback, but many times you find that citizens are given very little time to be able to respond. And sometimes when you look at the final draft or what is eventually passed, even in the county assemblies, it doesn't really incorporate what citizens presented. So we also have to consider what is the quality of public participation and what mechanisms are really being used to get citizens to be able to give feedback or really effectively participate. You still find mechanisms or media that are inaccessible to citizens. So maybe you use a newspaper advertisement to call for public participation, but yet to know mashinani, many people do not have access to newspapers, rather than use vernacular stations. Those are some of the things that we have been monitoring over the past couple of years. So seeing some small little improvements, but still quite a little more to be done. One of the other things that we also noted, and I think Senator Kajwang has addressed this, and I've taken that recommendation, in terms of building the oversight capacity of members of county assemblies, because we found that even in the last survey and one of the other studies that we have done is called the Local Integrity System Study, where we look into the functions and mechanisms within the county assemblies and county executives to be able to ensure accountability within their systems. And we found that members of county assemblies had little experience or capacity to be able to provide effective oversight, particularly in regard to the public audit process. And one of the things that we have been doing together with other civil society actors is trying to have a structured way of engaging members of county assembly. We have been training them, but what we're also trying to do is form what we call the County Assemblies Representatives Network Against Corruption, which are modeled along the lines of what we call the African Parliamentarians Network Against Corruption, which is a caucus of members of parliament who are then able to work on issues around corruption, both inside the House and also outside, in regard to representation, oversight, and legislation. So we've tried to do that at the county level. We actually now have an operating CANAC, we call it CANAC, in Kakamega County, but I take note of the need to also build capacity of the technical staff. And we try as much as possible to also roll it out to other counties. We tried to roll it out in Kwale, but then sustaining it was a bit of a challenge. We've also been engaging the Office of the Auditor General. They have been running what they call they've just actually started the piloting and finished the pilot of the Citizen Accountability Audit process, which is really in line with also what Senator Kajwang was saying, that it's sometimes not just about figures, in terms of what you see on the audit reports, but you also want to see the quality of work, what is, in terms of performing a real audit in terms of value for money. What is the effectiveness, efficiency of all these structures that are being supported by taxpayers' money? So we worked together with other civil society organizations and the Office of the Auditor General to pilot this, and I hope this is something that we can effectively institute across all audit processes so that citizens are well engaged. But one of the outcomes of the citizen accountability audit process, pilot rather, is that we really need to fast track the public participation and access to information frameworks, both at the national and at the county level, because we still have issues in regard to public participation. One of the other things that we're also focusing on, just to try and address the barriers and challenges that we are seeing at the county level in regard to governance and specifically corruption, is also trying to promote social accountability. We've already talked about the citizen accountability audit exercises, but we have other tools that we use as civil society. We have the civilian oversight mechanisms, public expenditure tracking, social audits, which have been actually quite effective in terms of getting information of how money has been used on the ground, whether those projects that you see on paper or that are reported in various reports actually exist. So getting citizens to actually go to the ground and audit these projects has been very useful. But one challenge in terms of them actually getting information has also, we don't have those regulations in regard to access to information, particularly at the county level. And so if we're able to pass this, Commissioner Chair Kajuju, I think that would be very effective in terms of promoting social audits and social accountability generally at the county level. I think, let me stop there because of time and possibly engage more as we maybe go into plenary.
Thank you very much, Sheila, for those remarks, and really good to see that the civil society is able to carry out research in addition to what our public institutions are doing, but also being able to put pressure on public institutions to continually implement laws and policies that will eventually have a positive impact on our governance. Coming to Sheila Karani, you sit here as a development partner alongside Anthony from the UNDP. Sheila, you're likely to have a vantage position because you work across the board with government and with independent commissions and with civil society, partnering with each of them to help them achieve their objectives. And it would be good to hear from you, Sheila, what in your work, and maybe broadly, not just USAID, but in your understanding of the development partners space and work, what are some of the effective approaches and strategies that promote good governance, especially in the county governments? What have you seen? What have you done? And how have you worked with the institutions represented here to ensure that good governance is promoted? And are you seeing this taking us to our goal of equitable and sustainable development? 5 minutes. No. Yes, 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Con, and good morning, fellow participants. It is an honor for me to sit here with all of you and to celebrate 10 years into Devolution. As the conference was being prepared, I had deja vu moments because a number of us have walked this journey from the first Devolution conference that took place in Kwale. So let me take this opportunity to congratulate all of you, from the national government to county governments, to independent commissions, civil society organizations, the private sector, and citizens for all the efforts, hard work, and progress that we have all jointly made over the last 10 years. Let me just give a little bit of overview of what USAID does, and I'll try to do everything, Con, within 5 minutes. So let me start by indicating that USAID is committed to inclusive and sustainable agriculture-led economic growth. We are rolling this out by using an approach that puts Kenyans in the leadership, what we are calling Kenya-led, Kenya-owned, Kenya-managed, because we believe that this is what will achieve sustainable development. Again, as I said, we development partners, not just USAID, have walked this journey with the government, the national government and county government since 2013. So I'll speak from some of the lessons we drew from the initial devolution program which USAID supported, which was known as a HADI, which stood for Agile and Harmonized Assistance for Devolved Institutions. This program was implemented between 2014 and 2020, and I'll just highlight some of the lessons that we learned, all of us collectively. And these lessons speak to the three components that my colleague from UNDP has highlighted around institutional arrangements, resources and management of those resources, and then rules of the game. So under the AHADI program, I'll just, as I said, highlight a few lessons and achievements. Most of the counties were very successful in setting up the necessary institutional arrangements, ranging from the administration side of the arrangements to other processes and systems, both financial systems as well as, performance management at the county level. We also saw improvements across counties with regards to inter-county coordination and collaboration. There were also very good steps and developments around development of training materials, training curriculum, revision of policies, and also the aspect of civic education around devolution. So these are just highlights of some of the lessons and achievements under AHADI. Now, Con, moving to the question you asked around strategies and approaches that will, promote good governance. I'll mention three. The first one is that promoting good governance requires robust public participation. I think those who've spoken ahead of me, including my namesake, has highlighted this aspect. And we are all aware that the Constitution provides for robust public participation in various sections. The second lesson, which refers to the whole institutional arrangement, is that strengthening intergovernmental institutions and collaboration between national and county governments will lead to successful devolution and eventually equitable and sustainable development. We've seen progress. Those of you who've been around for long remember that during the initial years of devolution, the relationship between the two levels of government was strained, competitive, and contentious. However, in the recent past, this intergovernmental relations coordination has greatly improved, and we've seen also the review of a number of laws and policies related to, intergovernmental coordination and collaboration. The third aspect or lesson is that while counties are making good progress around public financial management, so this speaks to the issue around resources and management of resources. However, there are still challenges around PFM. My colleague from UNDP touched on this. We continue to see that economic development is unevenly distributed 10 years into devolution. There are a number of, very few. He actually talked about 5 counties that are contributing to a significant portion of the GDP, while the counties at the bottom are contributing a small percentage to the GDP. So we see economic development continues to be unevenly distributed. The other challenge around PFM touches on budget performance. And that, and this, I think this was covered yesterday extensively. We continue to see that on average, 23% of county government, 23% of county budgets are not being implemented. And this presents a significant opportunity cost in terms of service delivery. In addition, 14% of county budgets are not matched with the funds available in the county revenue fund accounts. So there is need to improve budget performance, and this will require proper planning, efficient expenditure management, as well as transparency and accountability. And then the third lesson around PFM, again, this was extensively discussed yesterday, is around the own source revenue. And the performance has been inconsistent and below estimated potentials. So those are some of the lessons that we've learned. I think even other development partners that are working in this space, these are some of the lessons that we are taking forward as we get into this new phase of devolution. In terms of what USAID is doing moving forward, let me mention that our strategy places a very heavy emphasis on partnership. As I mentioned, our current strategy is all about partnerships and enabling Kenyans, the county governments, civil society, private sector to be in the forefront of coming up with solutions, because we believe that this is what will lead to sustainability. One of the partnerships that we are currently working on is what we call local development organizations. And we are partnering with a number of counties to set up local development organizations, LDOs. I'm seeing some of the county governments represented here. And these are umbrella organizations. And what USAID is doing is facilitating civil society organizations, community-based organizations, private sectors from these counties to come together and organize so that they can have collective voice and be able to engage and to participate in governance processes. In addition to the LDOs, and so far we have been able to partner with 11 counties. So far 11 counties have successfully formed LDOs, and these LDOs have developed strategic plans. They're engaging constructively with their communities and county governments. And we've seen that they've been able to continue mobilizing other CBOs at the county level, including Senator from your county, Homa Bay. There's an LDO that is quite active and very engaged both with the county government as well as with community-based organizations. Then we are in the process of finalizing a devolution program, which we are hoping will roll out in the next 2 months. Again, this program will build on the objectives and the will build on the lessons that I mentioned. And its objectives include improving financing and efficiency in the health sector. While it's a governance program, we have made a deliberate decision to focus on a specific sector, and that is the health sector. The program will also improve policy coordination at the intergovernmental level. And of course, the program will work both with the county governments, that is the county executive and the county assembly, as well as equipping citizens so that they can actively and proactively engage in key governance processes. So that is on the governance front, and at USAID we continue to work and partner with county governments and national governments in the other sectors. Let me mention the health sector and the agriculture sector that are devolved. In order to, again, enhance service delivery. So I'm being warned that my time is up. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sheila. Eric Latif is on stage, which means my time is up here, and our time is up here. Eric, of course, that means we don't have a chance to do plenary discussions or for me to give a summary of this discussion. But Eric, the governor of Mombasa, who could make it to this panel, had a very important point he wanted just brought out, especially by the UNDP country director, on the UN General Assembly that will be held mid-next month. If you can just allow Mr. Ngororano to just tell us, because I think everyone, the governors and the parliamentarians, the civil society will probably all attend that. If then Mr. Ngororano can tell us a bit about just the theme of that upcoming UN General Assembly and how it ties to our conversation today. And we are done.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
I think in the interest of time, in collaboration with our friends at COG, we will send a brief so that those, including the friends who are not with us today, can receive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ngororano. Ladies and gentlemen, let us appreciate our panel this morning. I hope you had an informative session like I did, and we really appreciate it. And you can find time to speak to them. These are all very accessible Kenyans and Rwandese seated before us. So please feel free. Thank you very much. Eric Latif, over to you.
Thank you very much. A round of applause, please, for this panel. My mic. Let's clap for the panel, please, and as we usher them off the stage, Asanteni sana. Very engaging and very good conversations that you've had this morning, hearing from the various sectors. Asanteni sana. A round of applause. Please stand for a pose for a photo here as I call up the next group up on stage. Panelists, you'll take a photo just up here for Mheshimiwa Florence, there's a photo session. So just take a quick photo as I introduce the next panel discussion. Ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of time, that's why you're seeing me having to rush that panel off the stage so we can invite the next one, so that we are also on time for our closing ceremony this afternoon, and also in good time for lunch and all the other deliberations. Our next conversation will be on affirmative action, linking the lessons to a sustainable future. The objective here is to examine the strides that have been made in the affirmative action agenda and propose responsive measures that can be adopted to guarantee the place of women, the youth, and the most vulnerable in governance. This panel will be moderated by Ms. Daisy Amdani. Daisy is the Executive Director at Crown Trust. A round of applause, please, as we welcome Daisy up on stage. She will come and introduce her panelists and also the keynote speaker for this particular one. We hope that this panel conversation will be concluded by about 12:45, so we can get into the next set of the program. Another warm round of applause, please, for Daisy as she comes.
So I will start that. Thank you so much, Eric Latif. Good morning. Good morning. My name is Daisy Amdani, and I'm the Executive Director of Crown Trust. And it is my privilege to moderate this panel. Allow me to invite our keynote speaker and panelists to the stage so that we can have this conversation. Dr. Shaheen. Dr. Shaheen is the current representative of UNICEF Kenya with over 30 years of experience in the development sector in senior leadership positions and in building large social sector development and humanitarian programs for nonprofit organizations. Allow me also to invite Senator Catherine Muma, who is a nominated senator and an advocate of the High Court, a passionate champion for women's rights and adolescents, and has made significant contributions to human rights practice and activism, and her commitment to health rights and advocacy as a founder of Adolescent Health and Rights in Africa. Also, allow me to invite Ms. Anna Mutavati, who is the country representative for UN Women in Kenya. Anna is a gender equality advocate and women's rights lawyer with 24 years experience. She has worked with UNFPA, UNICEF, and UN Women. Her achievements include support to legal reforms on gender discriminatory laws and support to women and children to assert their rights. Allow me also to invite to the stage Ms. Kala Mukavi. She has served as the FAO representative to Kenya since November 2020. Prior to this appointment, Ms. Mukavi worked as director of FAO Liaison Office in New York and is a career diplomat, having served in different functions in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Cooperation of Mozambique. She also served at the Embassy of Mozambique in Ethiopia and Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of Mozambique to Italy, Greece, and Malta, and the permanent representative to FAO and the World Food Programme. Allow me to also invite to the stage Mr. Hassan Harun Malim Hassan, who is the Executive Director of the National Council of Persons with Disabilities. He has more than 20 years of experience in public service and community work. He has served as a public administrator in the Office of the District Commissioner and the World Disability Union.
and is a member of the US-based Global Think Tank Association for Research on Nonprofit Volunteer Association. Welcome. Also, allow me to call to the podium Madam Grace Wasike, who will be representing the Cabinet Secretary for Gender, Public Affairs. It is the Ministry of Public Service, Gender and Affirmative Action. Grace has 30 years experience in the public service and has mainstream gender in the ministries of agriculture, the East African Community and mining, and is currently a director at the State Department of Gender. Finally, allow me to call to the podium Ms. Wangeshi Wachira. Wangeshi is the Executive Director for the Center for Rights, Education and Awareness, CREW, a national women's rights NGO focused on championing and building agency among women and girls to transform and build an equal society. Wangeshi has over 16 years of experience in senior management and is well known for her skills in lobbying and advocacy, gender and integration and inclusion. Last but not least, allow me to invite Her Excellency, Governor Gladys Wanga. Makofi Jameni. Gladys Wanga is the current governor of Homa Bay County and the vice chairperson of the COG Committee on Health. She is the first female governor from the western region of the county elected during the 2022 general election. Yes, she's one of the 7 female governors that we have in Kenya. These are the trailblazers. She served as a commissioner in the Parliamentary Service Commission and as the chairperson of the Finance Committee in the National Assembly. Her unwavering commitment to public service and exceptional leadership skills makes her a valuable asset to the people of Homa Bay County and the country at large. Now I can see all our seats are taken, so I think, Madam, oh, there's a seat at the back. Let's do this as we invite Carla. Allow me first to invite Shaheen, who will give us the keynote address, and then we will go into the panel discussion. Welcome, Shaheen.
Excellencies, all the delegates present here, and please accept that I write on the established protocol. Hongera kwa miaka 10 ya ukutuzi nchini Kenya. Congratulations for the 10 years of devolution in Kenya and a successful decade of a devolution journey. And what a transformative journey it has been. From a point of anxiety to where we are today is a point of optimism. Today I'm very honored to be with you, celebrating this milestone and reinforcing the path towards Devolution 2.0. And the focus of my remarks centers on 4 key messages. Firstly, devolution is one of the fastest route to equity and inclusion. Second, a data or an evidence-driven budget for effective quality delivery service delivery must work for the poor. Third, empowerment of girls is an urgent need for action. We need to do more. We aren't doing enough. And the last is addressing geographical disparities, which is about leaving no one behind. And the revolution's first decade brought successes, stories of success, growth, challenges, as well as some learnings. And it brought governance closer to the people to improve the service delivery. Tony, in the previous section, the UNDP country director, spoke about how devolution and good governance is about service delivery and effective service delivery. And we heard the Kenya's growth story on day one and how investments will further put Kenya in the global economic landscape. Undoubtedly, growth without equity is meaningless or insufficient. And whereas growth with equity is about social justice and shared prosperity. And the growth story must also tell us how it supports inclusion, reduces poverty, and closes the gap in its ability to reach the last mile in uplifting the most marginalized, the minorities in the remote communities, the children, the women, the disabled, in the refugee camps, in the informal urban settlements. The 2022 Kenya Demographic Health Survey shows some very positive effects of devolution, like the improved immunization and maternal care, about an improved healthcare accesses. We've also heard about increase in birth attendance from 48 to 89%, all reflects maternal care services on the high. But notably, the decline in stunting from 35 to 18% underscores the strides in nutrition and child development. And these achievements bear testimony and witness to the power of devolution to save lives and create opportunities in Kenya. And why is devolution vital for equity? It targets the most at-risk groups, tackling inequalities, and it's empowering county governments to drive local changes in productivity, fostering self-sufficiency in needs like health and nutrition and water and education, energy and other essential services. His Excellency President Ruto, in his remarks, mentioned about the human capital and the homegrown solutions and domestic resource mobilizations to accelerate poverty and reimagine its economic growth. Over the past decade, we saw how some counties have been beacons of innovations, productivity, and growth. And their success models offer counties that grow more slowly over the past decades and where growth has been less robust. Ladies and gentlemen, our theme, affirmative action, underscores inclusivity. And our inclusion, our conversations must prioritize efforts and resources towards leaving no one behind and fostering well-being and inclusive growth. And I humbly urge the organizers of the conference, as we reconvene for the next Devolution conference, we start the conversation telling us stories about efforts made towards ensuring that no one is left behind, only to be followed by stories of resources and investments made or to be made, the funds following the functions. The 2010 Constitution and the Article 10 and Article 35 recognizes public participation and access to information as a national value and a principle of governance. This was being referred to in the previous session as well. But let's quickly walk through some of the commendable programs the government of Kenya, the county governments notably, have undertaken to ensure inclusion. The establishment of the Financial Inclusion Fund, popularly known as the Hustler Fund, began last year with the initial 20 billion Kenyan shillings, further supplemented by 10 billion this fiscal year. We all know the transactions have surged, reaching approximately close to about 3.5 million. Mr. Peter Netwa, CEO of the Safaricom M-Pesa, did highlight the millions of the hits on this very platform. Nevertheless, it is important to analyze the fund's accessibility for women and young girls and those from the far-flung areas in the remote Kenyan north and northeastern hinterlands in their participation and geographical distribution. The universal health coverage stands as a transformative path towards healthcare reforms, and the National Health Insurance Fund addresses urgent healthcare needs for underprivileged Kenyans. As the current government, both at the county and the national level, aims for more local engagement as seen as hiring community health promoters, currently standing more than 100,000 being recruited across counties, already exiting the targets. The future focus is on community involvement in decisions and priorities that matters most to them. Further, the social protection programs, and there are many, including the elderly, disabled, orphans, and vulnerable children, offer safety nets, now adapt to shocks, as we've seen in the time of the drought, through wider coverage is very essential. Other initiatives like the Affirmative Action Fund, the Youth Enterprise Fund, the Women Enterprise Fund, all addresses gender-based violence and education reforms. Nevertheless, it's very crucial for both county and national administration to prioritize equitable access to credit, enabling women to register their businesses at par with men, ensuring equal inheritance right, land ownership, aligning the 6 months breastfeeding, exclusive breastfeeding with the call for 6 months of maternity benefits as an imperative goals. A decentralized system hinges on active involvement and collaboration among all the stakeholders in agriculture and renewable energy, in entrepreneurship. As Kenya's 47 counties craft the county investment development plans, a crucial step is assessing these plans to ensure gender sensitivity. And I love to give examples, and please pardon me if you don't hear the names of your counties, and which doesn't mean that you aren't necessarily making any efforts. For instance, consider the enhancement of maternal and child health in Kakamega and Vihiga counties, which has made substantial improvements in maternal and child health that has been observed. Counties like Kilifi, Marsabit, West Pokot, Turkana and Kitui, popularly known as niche counties, which is nutritional intervention through cash transfer for health and education, have achieved better nutritional outcomes by integrating social protection, nutrition, and child protection, targeting the lactating and the pregnant streamline. Business processes are noteworthy, and these efforts aim to improve access, effectiveness, efficiency for people living in far-flung areas who come all the way to Mombasa to ensure that they get access to what they need in terms of getting a form filled up and access to services. Lamu County's emphasis on empowering women highlights the commitment to uplifting the entire communities. This strategy is not only about evidences to advance gender equality, but also showcases how devolution can catalyze grassroots empowerment, fostering a fairer society, and equally about their intervention on national health insurance policies, registering approximately about close to 20,000 people. And that signifies the numerous promising initiatives. Internet connectivity is also about bridging the digital gap, And as we speak, close to about 418 schools out of the targeted 1,100 schools have been connected, primarily targeting 17 counties in Nassau, but also in the rest of the other counties, benefiting over 168,000 learners and teachers. In Busia County, a pioneering initiative called the Accessibility for All program has been introduced by the county government. And Vijay County is not behind in terms of their Vijay County's Disability Fund and People with Disability Act. So therefore, it is important in the first message that the evidence and data-driven budgets ensures optimal service delivery. The role of international budget partnership cannot be undermined as they conduct annual county budget survey across 36 counties, expanding to 47 counties by 2024, ensuring that the voices of the poor people and those at the bottom of the pyramid do influence resource allocations when these decisions are made at the county level. The crux lies in scalability, and proven initiatives like this and many more are well supported by the county government's resources and need to be supported. The potential for expansion holds the promise of hastening inclusive economic growth and poverty reduction. Distinguished guests, investing in the well-being of Kenya's vulnerable groups, children and women who form 48% and 50%, and unlocks the potential as a future contributor to the Kenya's economy. The KDH 2022 report reflects pressing concerns such as teenage pregnancy, FGM, underage marriages, and gender-based violence. This includes issues like corporal punishment, violence against children, even including in faith-based organizations and settings, posing barriers to women's and girls' empowerment. So facilitating economic empowerment for women and youth through affirmative action funds can effectively combat violence against women and children. Therefore, it is important that the performance contracts that was talked about must reflect the need to do more for the girls and the women. Nevertheless, achieving greater transparency for citizens' engagement remains very imperative for shaping lives and ensuring accountability. And the convergence, ladies and gentlemen, of stakeholders has been very pivotal in Kenya's successful devolution journey. The United Nations Devolution Joint Devolution Program, backed by UNICEF, UN Women, and UNDP, alongside the support of Finland, Italy, and Sweden, and many more donors, the USA,